Do you remember this? Quote, if Kamala wins, you are 3 days away from the start of a 1929 style economic depression. If I win, you are 3 days away from the best jobs, the biggest paychecks, and the brightest economic future the world has ever seen. Unquote. Who wrote that? Donald didn't actually write it because it's relatively grammatical and there are no bizarre uh, capitalizations, but it was on his account. And I just want to say this to you, Donald, because of your sweeping, stupid, moronic, and destructive tariffs, our markets are in freefall. So let's take a look at what happened today. Quote, stocks plunge as China responds to Donald's tariffs, unquote. That's right. The markets closed with the Dow Jones Industrial down 2,231 points and an average and down, that's down 5.5%. This is the worst single day decline in years. And over the last 2 days, it's been over 3,000 points that it's gone down. This economic wreckage has sparked a rare bipartisan reaction, with the Republicans joining Democrats in Congress to try to stop Donald's rampage. Because right now, we do need fearless leaders, even if they're Republicans, who will stand up for the Constitution and put an end to Donald's destruction and the destruction of the Trump regime. And I do mean this wholeheartedly. Where have you been, Republicans? Now that we're finally staring down an economic collapse, some of which may well be irreversible, you're finally waking up. You had no problem with the dismantling of our institutions. You had no problem with the fact that almost every single policy and move that the Trump regime has taken, led by Donald Trump, led by Elon Musk, led by that stupid, unconstitutional legal agency called the Department of Government Efficiency, and the ways in which that has been making things more expensive, increasing inflation, destabilizing our country, making us a world pariah. That was not a bridge too far for you, but no, the economy's in trouble and now you're going to step up. But here's the thing. None of this should have happened because you're responsible for this. The executive branch does not have the authority to slap tariffs on anything it wants without any plan whatsoever. That's your fucking job. And it's also your job to stop it. So every penny that gets lost in the stock market, every penny that gets lost on somebody's 401k, every penny that's added to the price of an essential good that the American people need, that is on you. That is on you. I don't know. Maybe you're finally deciding that there is enough blood on your hands and you want to try to start washing it off by finally, at long last, maybe too late, doing the right thing. Maybe. I have no faith in you whatsoever, and you don't deserve it. So this week, we've seen a scattering of GOP lawmakers and pundits realizing that they may be a little bit too late to Donald's party on his so-called Liberation Day and his sweeping 10% tariffs. So we're going to get into that. But before we dive in further, please take a second to like and share this video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit the bell to get notified when new episodes drop. All right, I want to start with Congress. One of the loudest Republican voices against Donald's tariffs has been Senator Rand Paul, broken clock twice a day, et cetera, et cetera. Even after public threats from Donald, Paul sided with Democrats in a 51-48 Senate vote to end the so-called national emergency Donald used in February to justify his 25% tariffs on Canadian imports. Here's what Rand had to say.
Bad tariffs are bad economically. It's not good form for a constitutional republic to have taxes raised by one person. When our Constitution was written, it said taxes originate in Congress, and more specifically, they originate in the House. So there's nothing about this that's consistent with our constitutional republic.
Now, while Paul has been consistent in opposing the tariffs, other Republicans speaking out might surprise you. It might surprise you because some of the people I'm about to discuss are among the most sycophantiest of the sycophants, who don't have a spine and who are essentially vile human beings who up until now have seemed willing to just watch it all burn down while throwing gasoline on the fire. We've got this one.
Look, I think it is a mistake to assume that we will have high tariffs in perpetuity. I don't think that would be good economic policy. I am not a fan of tariffs. And the announcement yesterday, look, time is going to tell in the next month or two or three what happens. If the result of yesterday's announcement is a lot of our trading partners across the globe dramatically reduce the tariffs they charge on U.S. goods and services, and the consequence of that is the U.S. government dramatically cuts the tariffs that were announced yesterday, that would be a great outcome. That would be good for America. If the result is our trading partners jack up their tariffs and we have high tariffs everywhere, I think that is a bad outcome for America. Tariffs are a tax on consumers, and I'm not a fan of jacking up taxes on American consumers. So my hope is these tariffs are short-lived and they serve as leverage to lower tariffs across the globe.
There is no universe in which that happens. Also, it would have been fabulous if you've been saying any of this during the election. And by the way, you say, I don't believe tariffs should be this high in perpetuity. You actually have the power to stop it right this second, you coward. Really? Why don't you understand that? You're supposed to be a senator. Also, look what's happening. In what universe do you think that Donald Trump is going to come to his senses? He doesn't have any. Earlier today, Cruz posted this on his podcast, The Verdict.
I was talking with one of the major U.S. car manufacturers yesterday. You think of sort of the poster child. If you ask, just the guy on the street, who's benefiting from all these tariffs, they'd probably say, their immediate answer, they'd say, American car companies, GM, Ford, Chrysler, they're going to do great. Well, one of the big three told me last night that the impact of these tariffs will be the average prices of all of their cars will go up $4,500. That when you go and buy an American car from a big American company, that you will pay, they said, probably starting in June. And I asked why June, and they said, well, there's some lag in the supply chain. So they've made cars that they've sold to their dealers. And so it will be the cars they're selling to their dealers. It'll be about June when the prices go up. But they were predicting last night $4,500 is what the price of a car will go up.
Yeah, we all knew this before the election. So thanks for nothing. Even Senator Chuck Grassley, Republican of Moscow, is taking a stand, which is quite honestly shocking. On Wednesday, he and Senator Maria Cantwell, Democrat of Washington, introduced bipartisan legislation to rein in Donald's unilateral tariff authority, which he doesn't even have. Guys, wake up. The bill would require congressional approval within 60 days for any new tariff. That's fabulous. It would also force Donald to submit detailed justifications, including economic impact assessments. Sorry, I'm laughing, but the idea that Donald is going to submit anything to anybody, including justifications, economic impact statements on American businesses and consumers, is so incredibly laughable. When are you people going to understand with whom you are dealing? Never. What does Senator Mike Rounds, Republican of South Dakota, think about all of this? Because I'm just dying to know. Take a look.
I can't right now. I've got to go to another meeting, but I'll be back.
Have you seen the stock market this morning?
I've looked at it a couple of times.
Are you concerned?
Yep. But I have nothing to say about it. I'm going to admit that I've looked and that I'm concerned because I desperately want to convince my constituents that I care and I deserve to be reelected. But I am not going to say anything further because I, too, am a fascist Republican, which is just code for coward. So the pushback, of course, is not just limited to the Senate. Even I don't like saying conservative anymore because it's a meaningless word. The right-wing legal world is turning on Donald. On Thursday, the new Civil Liberties Alliance, again, right-wing legal group, filed what they say is the first lawsuit against Donald's new China tariffs. The lawsuit was filed in federal court in Florida, arguing that Donald overstepped his authority when he imposed sweeping 54% tariffs on Chinese imports, stacking a new 34% hike on top of the 20% he'd already rolled out earlier this year. The group's senior litigation counsel, Andrew Morris, did not mince words, saying, quote, by invoking emergency power to impose an across-the-board tariff on imports from China, that statute does not authorize. Donald has misused that power, usurped Congress's right to control tariffs, and upset the Constitution's separation of powers. Unquote. Yeah, no kidding. This isn't some left-wing think tank. This is a right-wing legal group suing Donald for abusing emergency powers and running roughshod over the Constitution. I am so happy somebody is finally paying attention. They're representing a Florida-based business, Simplified, that says Donald's tariffs are crushing U.S. retailers and taxpayers alike, because they are. And anybody who has eyes to see recognizes this, and has recognized during the election, again, when they were talking about Project 2025, and he was talking about this tariffs, which he's been doing for a very long time now, that this was not going to go well. Why? Because he doesn't know what he's talking about. His understanding of macroeconomics is non-existent, and nobody could convince him that tariffs were a bad idea. And in fact, the more people tried to convince him, the more he doubled, tripled, and quadrupled down on his terrible idea. Why? Because he's Donald, and he's stupid, and he's so narcissistic and self-centered that he cannot possibly ever be wrong. So he would rather burn everything down than let any sane voices break through. Now I want to talk about right-wing media and economic voices. Remember Jim Cramer's New Year's optimism? Quote, "Happy New Year to all, and what a big year it will be," unquote. Well, yeah, I mean, he wasn't wrong. I mean, he was wrong, but the words are right. Let's see what he had to say yesterday.
Yeah. And what bothered me, Aaron, was that they really did over and over again. The president said, listen, it's going to be reciprocal. So you do it, we do it. And that was going to be so good. And I really believed in it. And I feel like a sucker tonight because I am not a free trader and I do not believe in free trade. And I was just as tough, if not tougher than his people. But they screwed it up. And they really they did it a totally ill-advised way. And I was very let down as someone who really, truly believes that free trade is awful for the American working person. This is what they came up with. Geez, come on, have some gumption, have some math.
Gumption, my word. Forsooth. I don't know what he's talking about. I mean, if he's surprised, then he's just another one of those people who hasn't been paying attention, or I guess is so invested in the fascism that he's willing to let the rest of it slide. Even Geiger Capital, a conservative, right-wing economist account on Twitter, is eating crow in response to a November tweet where they mocked the idea of 20% tariffs imposed by Donald as left-wing paranoia. They followed up with the following, quote, "I won't delete this tweet because I'm a man of honor. But yes, I was wrong on tariffs in November. He has indeed put blanket tariffs on every country. Donald 2.0 is very different," unquote. Then he added this, quote, "And technically the baseline blanket tariff is 10%, not 20%, but I still give it to you. Man of honor," unquote. I don't think it's quite fashionable to refer to yourself as a man of honor twice in 2 tweets, but you do you. I'll let it slide. Whatever. You happen to be right here, and it's always good to own up to our mistakes, which, if Donald Trump were psychologically capable of doing such a thing, a lot more of us would still be alive today and our economy wouldn't be crashing. But this is very bad. This is very bad across the board. And the question is, what is anybody going to do about it? It seems like, yes, some Republicans are on board with trying to stop the bleeding. But again, they're just doing it around the edges. They have to seize back their control. They have to seize back their control right now because they have it. They are senators of the United States of America. They can do something here. And by choosing not to, by choosing instead to take half measures, they are simply allowing the carnage to continue. And again, is there not enough blood on your hands? Because if you truly want to atone, then you have to make this insanity stop immediately. Otherwise, there is no going back for you or for anybody else. Please take a second and like and share this video. It'd be awesome if you could subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to us in podcast form, please follow us and give the show a 5-star rating because it really does help other people find our content. Thanks.